Okay, I'm back to finish our Sunday meal. I tried to keep the phone on pause and then it didn't work out, so I had to make a part two. Now the meat is done, boiled it until it's soft. The meat for the cabbage is done. I taste the juice on it. It's extremely good, but I do something different with mine than other people do. I'm adding a little water to my barbecue sauce that I made for the pulled pork because it got thick in the refrigerator. So I'm adding a little water to thin it out a little bit. Now I do have my recorder going so I can learn how to be using that instead of just using my phone constantly. I added my seasoning to the bottom of the pan. I also added some thin sliced onions that I set the meat right on top of it because it gives it a different flavor. Now when I first started making these ribs, I used to put the onions on top, but then they would cook and they wouldn't cook all the way, so they'd still be crunchy. I don't mind the crunchiness, but all the flavors wouldn't come out. So I lay them on the bottom now, so not only will they cook, but all the flavors come out. It actually helps the ribs taste better. And plus they get done all the way so I can actually eat them without my breath smelling horrible afterwards. Now if you got the time, you can just you boil this soft enough the bones fall out of it. So if you have the time to take out each individual bone, go ahead and do that. I used to do it when my kids was younger. They're big enough to take out their own bones now, so I don't have to do it anymore. Then I just put my barbecue sauce. I drizzle it on top. You don't want to put too much, because you still want to taste the meat underneath, so you don't want to overpower it. Okay. Then I add my seasonings, my 4 main seasonings I always use, which is the garlic powder, onion powder, seasoning salt and pepper. Now it will be some recipes that I don't even use these at all. We haven't gotten to that stage just yet. We're just trying to get the basics out the way. So when I start classes, you guys, I will be recording me doing my homework. Do not laugh at me because I don't always get the recipes right the first time. And this week we're doing New Recipe Wednesday. I'm making fufu, and I forgot the name of the soup. So I slightly seasoned it on top, and just a little bit of barbecue sauce. And I throw it in the oven on 350. Now you can cook this as long as you want. How long you want it in the oven, it doesn't matter. Now for my meat, what I do with my meat after I boil the meat until it's soft, and I try to boil majority of the water out. In this area, I had already cut up my cabbage. Now I'm going to add my bell pepper and onion. Not all of it, but a little bit of it to the pot. Before I add the cabbage, so the flavors can come out in the water as well. I usually cut it on my homemade island because I have limited space. But with the grocery shopping I did today, I have limited, even more limited space now with the groceries I bought for this week. So we're going to be cooking different things this week. I'm trying to I'm going to try to record as much as possible with or without help, because one monkey don't stop no show. That's for anybody. I don't care who it is. If nobody else is going to help you do it, figure out a way to do it yourself. I never got to explain why I got the different cutting boards. I got at least 6 different kinds of cutting boards, because they, depending on where you cut and what you're cutting, it acts different on the material you're cutting on, or the type of fruit, vegetable, or meat. Some cutting boards are better than others. When I'm doing chicken, I like to use my clear plastic hard one, because it washes easily. You don't want to do it on the wood, because wood got too many, you know, grains and crevices that the juices can soak into. And you don't want to constantly keep wetting the wood. I will use my wood one for mostly doing like little vegetables that doesn't have a lot of moisture in them. I like to use it for that. My plastic one here, I put everything on here because it is washable. It's not the kind that folds easily. So these are my vegetables that I will be putting in the cabbage once they get halfway done. So I put some in that first, just to season, just a little bit to season. Add a little more water, and then I let it cook off a little more. Cabbage produces its own water, so you don't really want to have to constantly worry about having to refill it. Just cook it down just enough to leave a little bit of water for it to simmer in, because if you put more water in it and then add the cabbage, it's going to turn into a soup. Now today, how to make canned goods taste good version of short cube cooking is I'm doing yams. Yams and sweet potatoes are 2 different potatoes. They taste completely different, and sweet potatoes are not exactly sweet, neither are yams, so they have to be sweetened with brown sugar and things like that. So when I use the ones in the can, I leave the juice on them. I add butter, not margarine, because butter has a different taste than margarine. For 1 can, I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons. And for those people who are on a diet and you still want that butter flavor, now I know everybody does not own as many seasonings as I do, but they do have imitation butter. So you can get the butter flavoring without having to use butter at all. So that's a great shortcut also, especially for those people who should not be using butter at all. So I add vanilla extract to the sweet potatoes. It's gonna seem like the same ingredients you would use to make a pie. So I'm adding vanilla extract. That's about a teaspoon, because it's only the 1 can, so I do about a teaspoon. I like to put things back where I get them from, so it helps to keep things clean. So we're gonna do about 2 tablespoons of butter, because we just need it for the flavor. My brown sugar, depending on what day it is, because I don't measure at all, I would just pour it in there. But we don't want you guys to sugar up the kids. We're gonna do about 1/4 cup. That's the small one. Y'all can't get these from the Dollar Tree, but they do have some. It doesn't matter which type you get, as long as you can read what size it is on the measuring. You can get the plastic ones, they work just as good. I just got these from my knife kit I bought. I found a really good Mercer knife kit for $400 at a pawn shop in Gary one day, which I bought with my tax money. Everybody else is out there buying Jordans or letting their boyfriend flip it. I bought a knife kit. So 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Now they do have these bags that you can reclose the brown sugar in. After you use it 3-4 times, it doesn't close any longer. So what I do is I get these, the small Ziploc baggies. You put it in there, you close it up. Now, if you don't have one of my, I have a brown sugar container next to my gravies, but my brown sugar container is sealed off so there's no air coming in. The more air you get on your sugar, the brown sugars, the harder it gets. That's why you get like those lumps and everything. That is a way to make them back soft. We're not going to go through that today because it takes too long to explain why. So we add the brown sugar, the butter, the vanilla extract. Guess what's missing? Cinnamon and nutmeg. Now I don't measure these either. I just douse a little bit in the skillet. On top of it. You just want to season it just a little bit like you would do your meat. Now what I'm doing now with the meat that's already been cooked to a soft and I got most of the flavors out for the cabbage, I added a little bit of bell pepper and onions to release those flavors. So when those start getting softer, or the onions get translucent when they're almost done. So once they start looking more see-through, is when I'm going to add my cabbage to that. I already have my pot on to make my macaroni and cheese. Now normally, this is me salting the water. This is the salt I use for everything. I just refill my bowl when it gets too low. This costs about $4. Depending on what store you go to, you can catch it. Salt is not expensive, but it does matter the salt you get depending on the taste you're looking for. Since I haven't used the iodine salt, the little salt with the girl with the yellow rain jacket on it, I haven't used that in so long. And I haven't eaten any in so long that I can tell when someone uses it when they cook. I can actually taste the difference. Now this is my dollar box. I got this from the Dollar Tree. This is my dollar box of macaroni. The reason I buy this, besides the fact that it's $1, it doesn't make it, if I'm adding extra cheese to it, and I'm adding some butter and things like that, I don't really go by the cheese packet. The cheese packet is what makes the pasta taste different, not the pasta themselves. Everybody they use the same elbow macaroni in all the macaroni and cheese unless you get Velveeta shells. But it's still all the same pasta. It's still the same taste. The only difference that make the macaroni and the macaroni and cheese different is the actual cheese that they use. Since I use extra cheeses and, I add my milk and things like that to it, it doesn't matter how much I pay for the box of macaroni that I use. And for those people who are on a budget, because I know I stay on a budget called broke, use the ones for $1. Because you can make it taste like you pay $5, $6 for it, because the macaroni Kraft and the Velveeta now, they're like $3 a box now. So, I'm just letting you guys know it's a way to eat. You can eat like you got money while you're on a budget. And you can also make it look like you got money on a budget. So I'm just cutting up. I'm cutting up the bell peppers and onions now. Just trying to find a way to... Okay. And I do still wear my hair now, even though all my hair is not out, it's braided up. You never know what's in your hair, so I still tie my hair up. I don't have that much. It's just a little strip of hair down the middle, but I still cover it up. Now I'm not gonna get carried away and wear gloves every time I cook, because that's just ridiculous. When I have my nails done, I wear them. When I don't, I wash my hands a lot, and I'm good. Now this onion, what I do not to waste onions, because you really don't want to refrigerate them. You really don't want to leave them sitting out. Get an onion for the size that you're going to need for when you cook. I'm cooking 2 things with onions, so I got a medium-sized onion. So half of it went with the ribs, and the other half is going into the cabbage. So I don't have anything wasted. Because you really don't want to refrigerate an onion and then let it get the fungus and the fumes, and then you get sick. And y'all looking at me like, she did it. Nope, I didn't. Blame it on somebody else. I do try to get as much off the onion as possible and throw just this minimum, the part we can't eat away. Now with the bell pepper, I will be wrapping this up and putting it in the refrigerator, but I will be finding some to cook with for this tomorrow. And I think I'm gonna put it in, what am I supposed to be doing? Oh, I'm gonna show you guys my mandolin, and we're gonna use that. We're gonna make sub sandwiches. I like thin sliced bell pepper. I do a bell pepper and the red onion on my sandwiches, so I'll be using this for our sandwiches for tomorrow. All right. Okay, I decided I was going to show you guys how to do the macaroni and cheese that goes in the oven, because normally I have everything for that. And I have my shredded cheddar. You're not even on camera, y'all. You just do stupid shit. I have my cheddar cheese, and I didn't have any Colby Jack, but what I did have is my pulled cheese. So what I'll be doing is cutting up me some pulled cheese, the little string cheeses for my macaroni, so I can make this macaroni for you guys. Now we're almost ready to add the cabbage. Let's sit over there. I love this. And the best thing about having my cutting boards, I can just flip it. Since we're only making 1 box, I don't think I'm gonna need to cut up a bunch of cheese. I'm definitely not gonna just pull the string. Ashana! Ashana! I need your help. Go wash your hands. Who you talking to? You watching some on YouTube? Okay, so let's start adding. We're gonna start adding the cabbage. And with this being a can of sweet potatoes, these are actually the yams. I don't like to cook them very long because they're already soft. So I just cook it long enough for the butter to melt and the season to incorporate, then I turn it off. I don't put a top on them because they're still hot and it'll steam and it'll drop down. The moisture will drop back down and it'll make it watery. So I just let it cool down first. So this is us adding that. Once that cooked down some, I'll be adding the diced bell pepper and onion. Now what I use to make the baked macaroni and cheese. Hey, hand me that small can of milk I bought yesterday. They evaporated the can.
Huh?
The small can of milk from down there. The evaporated milk, not the condensed milk. Since we're only making one box, we don't need a whole bunch of cheese. Depending on how cheesy you like your macaroni. I don't use, now depending on if I have it or not, and normally I do have it. I do tend to overbuy on certain items that I use. You know how to start, do me a favor. Open this and start like stringing it or what, how the hell are you supposed to do that? Look for the ones that you pulled or what? I don't need them. That's what I'm asking. I don't need them. Y'all know I'm just going to deep fry them. So we're going to what we got left over to deep fry. I use this milk. For 1 can, I use this milk. It's evaporated milk. What makes this milk different from your regular vitamin D milk, your skim milk, the milk you get out of the refrigerator, besides the fact it's in a can, this is evaporated because most of the water has been taken out of it. So it's about 30%. I think it's 33% less.
It's not crunchy.
I didn't tell you to bite it.
I didn't. I tried to peel it off, but it didn't.
Then where that piece go?
In my mouth. Well, I was gonna put it with a little piece. I tried to string it, and it didn't come off. You know.
You know what? You lucky I'm recording. So since I don't have any shredded cheese,
You want this?
and it's not, yeah, I want you to have it. Then you could have just, hey, give it here.
But if
Give
that
it
was
here.
enough for me,
Get it here. This is how people get stabbed, especially in my kitchen. So I'm just gonna make my own shredded cheese. I do have a shredder. I even had a little cute machine that they be at the restaurant. You put the cheese in and just go over your plate with it. I don't have time to take that out.
you need some more help.
Yeah, but I'm too apologize. You can put some more of my stuff. Put some more in that cup. It's what you can do. It's a can in my room. I think I had everything though. So I'm gonna. Oh, you know what? No, I need a strainer. Give me the. I just used 2 of them this week. It shouldn't be that hard to find. That's simple. I might start just buying these and shredding them myself. That way, what I don't use for the shredded cheese, so I can give it to the kids as a snack. Thank you. I just said I just used one. Yes, I'm recording. You might want to step back. Your shirt is in the camera. Yes. The girl, stop playing. Just leave it right there. Sorry, you have to make them food. Okay? No, we're gonna do the soup in the crock pot because that's gonna be one of the shortcuts. But the fufu itself, that box stuff has to be made the same day. But I think what is using the goat meat I bought, and you want that to be soft, we're gonna put that in the crock pot the night before, and then the goat meat. Well, which meat was you trying to use?
Not goat.
You don't like goat meat? You tried to goat meat. You tried an oxtail too, right?
No.
You not tried an oxtail?
No.
I got some oxtails in that deep freezer. We can go ahead and freeze that goat meat.
Oh.
You get some oxtails out,
No.
and we can use oxtails instead of goat meat. This is what I go through with my kids. It's not the fact that I don't cook. They don't know what they want to eat. Huh? Why you want to ask me for stuff on camera? I don't mind being mean to you on camera. Everybody know who I am. Everybody who friends me on Facebook know I don't give a fuck. Understand that. They ain't got nothing to do with me though. Now, this is one thing I implore you guys to get. They do have it at the dollar store. It's a spaghetti ladle with the little fingers on it. This is for when you use pasta, the little hole. This is how I pick up boiled eggs with this little hole. These separates the pasta when you stir it. So these are a must-have in your kitchen when you're cooking. You got a regular spoon, a slotted spoon, your tongs. I would definitely get wood and steel. Plastic melts too easily. But this one, unless you like the cheap plastic, does melt easily. But if you just starting off, get the cheap plastic. I don't need you going out here buying the expensive utensils and you messing it up.
What's these?
These are the peppers we're going to be using. These are the Scotch bonnets. So they're like in the family of the habanero.
Is it coconut?
That's a white coconut. We're going to be using that.
My coconut.
It's a white coconut. Well, get it to your sister. No, your hand. You ain't even wash your hands. Tell your sister to come get her cheese. I just took it from her because she pissed me off. So I'm stirring up the cabbage. Now the reason that I just put that cabbage that fell on my stove back in the pot because I keep my stove clean. Everybody not allowed to do that. Now I use an egg, evaporated milk. I use my shredded cheddar cheese and my Colby Jack. Now what I do tend to add is that little cheap packet. I still use this. I also use I still use about 2 tablespoons of butter when I bring it out, when I shake it off. Go ahead. When I drain it off, what I like to do is put the macaroni. This bowl's not big enough. I'd rather use this one because this one got the grip on the bottom. Now I do have different bowls. I like this bowl because it has a grip on the bottom of it. And when you're storing things like cakes and macaroni and things like that, it doesn't move all across the table. So that's the reason I like it. If you don't have these bowls, you get you a towel. You put your towel on the table, then sit your bowl on top of it. It prevents it from moving all over the place also. Get you a pair of kitchen scissors. The ones you only use, you don't want to go and say, hand me them scissors. Somebody done cut paper with it. Somebody done cut hair with it. Somebody done cut their finger with it. You don't want to use those same scissors in the kitchen with your food. So get you a pair of scissors that you just leave in the kitchen in your knife drawer. The reason I'm putting this in the bowl before I put the macaroni is because as soon as the hot macaroni hits it, it starts to melt. And it makes it easier. Okay, I need a spatula. Oh, there we go. A cake spatula is another need too. This is my little Christmas one. I got it on sale for 75% off at the grocery store. It costed me 50 cents. So I bought all of them. But a cake spatula is a need to have in the kitchen. I'm going to add my butter and my cheeses. So when the macaroni do get done, after I finish draining the water off, I just throw it right in here. This is the casserole dish I'm using to put it in. There's not that much spray left in here, so I'm going to use the last of it before I throw it away. I like using the sprays instead of having to melt butter and then waiting, then trying to swoosh it around. Get you some spray. It works great. There's still a little bit left in the can. Now I'm finna add my bell peppers and onions to the I'm using a spoon to scoop it in because I've been doing other stuff with my hands and I hadn't just yet washed them. My kids hate it. I go through a bunch of bowls and dishes when I cook. I do it on purpose. So they'll have something to do when they're done with their schoolwork. That way they can leave me alone. And I also threaten them, like, if you don't get this kitchen, if y'all don't do that homework, I'm going to go in here and cook some, since y'all don't want to do nothing in school. And that helps out a lot. So I just spray that first to get it out the way, because once I get it all mixed up together, I want to hurry up and transfer it over, because since we got the oven on already, we want to get it done and in the oven at the same time, so they cook and get done at the same time. So everything will be nice and hot when it's time to eat. Okay. This is how the cabbage looks. I left them in big chunks so that you can pick it up with a fork. There's not enough water. When you don't get the big ones with the green leafy leaves, it's not producing enough water for me. So I'm just adding 2 tablespoons of water for now. Just so it don't stick on me. Just, okay, there we go. Just to have enough water. Let me see. I can scoop it over. Just to have just that amount of water in the bottom of it. I'm finna order one of those cameras you wear on your body so I don't have to keep moving that one, and you don't have to keep getting a close-up of my face, especially with the mask breaking my face out. Look like I got, wait until I got this old to get acne. No way. I need a small pot for the sweet potatoes because they done cooled down. Now I can cover them up. So now I'm finna season my cabbage. Now with cabbage, there is a slippery leaf, and it's hard for seasonings to stick to them. That's too big. I need it for this one. So a size smaller, please. Now what I do, especially when I'm using pork, mostly, depending on who's coming for dinner, I don't always use pork. I use smoked turkey sometimes. So if I'm using, I use a little grease, a little shortening to the cabbage. So it gives it a different flavor also, but it helps the seasoning stick to the cabbage leaves. I should have got this out earlier. If I get stuck down here, I'm be mad as hell. I ain't been my knees in 3 days. Jeez, that was, okay. Now with this small pot, I'll be adding this much. That is about 1.5 tablespoons of shortening. Now you can use other things besides shortening. I've been using shortening for years. My oldest is older, so that's always this is just the recipe I like using. You don't have to use shortening, but it is nice to use something that you know that's going to help the seasoning itself stick to the cabbage, because nothing sticks to this cabbage. You can season it all up you want to, unless you're doing stuffed cabbage, which I'll be doing later on this week, some stuffed cabbage. But that helps the seasoning stick. And with certain foods, black pepper is intimidating. I get this. This is white pepper. It's used a lot in Chinese cooking and French cooking, because you don't see it. You can taste it, you don't see it. It's just like regular pepper, you just can't see it. Okay. The top should have been in the top box. It's not in the box with the pops. It's a box that has nothing but tops in it.